Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This morning's learning is sponsored by Jay Rogel and Debbie Rogel in memory of Jay's mother and Debbie's grandmother, Bella Rogel, whose yortzeit is the 11th of Sivan. It should be an aliyah for the neshama. Thank you very much, Debbie. Thank you. Okay, chapter 6, verse 14. We're now in the halacha of the Nazir. We were discussing the Sota. Now we move on to the Nazir. The Nazir is a person who takes a vow. It's very interesting. People can make vows about all kinds of things, but the Torah prescribes, this is sort of like a standard vow, has to do with foregoing different types of physical pleasures, such as wine, not cutting one's hair, not allowing oneself to become ritually impure through contact with the dead body. And like vows, this is a vow that's supposed to be for a period of time. It could be for a month. It could be for another period of time, whatever. The Torah prescribes this whole method. There's not an obligation to become a Nazir, but it's an option for people. And then the Torah talks about offerings that the Nazir is to bring at the end of his period of bringing a Nazir, at the end of his period of being a Nazir. And one of the offerings is a chatas. Chatas is a sin offering. Now that's a real interesting one, because why are we talking about a sin offering here? The Nazir didn't do anything wrong. If anything, he did something very uniquely special. So why would we talk about a sin offering? This is a famous topic. We'll just see a brief Ramban about this. Ramban on Pasuk Yudalet V'tam Hachatas Sheyakriv HaNazir B'yom Melos Yimei Nisro Lo Nisparish. It's difficult to understand why the Nazir brings a sin offering on the day that his Nazirite vow has completed. Ramban says it would seem the straightforward meaning is this person has sinned in a sense at the completion of the Nazir period. Nazir mikdushaso va'avodas Hashem. Because at this moment, he was this crown to God in his sanctity and his service of God. And it would be such an appropriate thing to stay that way, in this unique status, so uniquely devoted to God. And going to the end of the Ramban, so now he's going back. It's been very meaningful. It's been great. He hasn't partaken of wine and different things over the course of his Nazir period. And now what? Now he's going to go back to that. So the Ramban says, in some sense, there's something sinful, not prohibited, but there's something lacking maybe about his leaving the Nazir status. That's the position of the Ramban. Other commentaries say the exact opposite. Other commentaries say that there was something not so good about his being a Nazir, because this world is about benefiting and elevating. So kind of just looking at wine and whatever else and saying, not for me, well, then that's not really what God had in mind. God had in mind that we would take the pleasures of this world and utilize them in elevated ways. So there are those who say the sin offering is that he stopped his Nazirus. There are those who say the sin offering is because he was a Nazir. Just an interesting question, but a very, very famous topic of discussion from this week's parsha. Okay, going on to verse 24, we have psukim that are very, very well known. Birchas Kohanim. It's really, I mean, we're used to it, but it's such an amazing thing to think about that God gives a subset of Klal Yisrael the authority to sort of impart a blessing to his people, but he tells them the text. It's really interesting. What I'd like to do is I'd like to go through on the brachos of Birchas Kohanim, Rashi and the Sforno. And this is not to say that these are the only possible approaches, but it's, we'll at least have some things to think about here. Let's start with Rashi on Pasuk Chav. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. Yivarechecha means God should bless you. Rashi says Yivarechecha. But what is that? I mean, this whole thing is a blessing. So what does it mean that God should bless you? So Rashi says, your assets should be blessed. You should have success in your possessions. Yishmerecha, God should protect you. Shlo yavo alecha shodim litomamoncha. That plunderer should not come to take your things. Normally, a master gives a gift to his servant. So it's a nice thought, but now the master can't guarantee that the servant won't lose the guest to someone who steals it from him, but God can. So God can bless our possessions, and then not only bless our possessions, but guard them from other people doing inappropriate things with them, or to us with them. So according to Rashi, it's all about monetary possessions. Let's just jump over to the Sforno here. He more or less says the same thing, but he just has one more wrinkle. Sforno pasuk chavdal yivarechacha ba'osher and chasim. God should bless you with wealth and possessions. Shim ein kamach ein Torah. So the Sforno is bothered by something. Is that the best thing we've got? God should make you rich. I'll take wealth. That would be fine. And if a person were to become wealthy, they should certainly thank God. But that's item number one. So the Sforno feels need to explain that. So he says, famous Mishnah Pirkei Avos, if there's not flour, you're not going to be able to have Torah either. In other words, you need to have financial well-being to be able to do all the other things you want to do in this world. Okay, let's go on now to Pasuk Chaf Hey. Yo'er Hashem panav elecha v'chuneka. God should shine his face towards you. Let's translate v'chuneka as he should give you favor. Let's see Rashi. Rashi on Pasuk Chaf Hey. Yo'er Hashem panav elecha. Yara l'cha panim sochakos, panim tzehuvos. We would say that God should shine his face upon you. God should essentially smile upon you. That's how God's face should glow upon you. It's an interesting way to think about things. And Rashi v'chuneka says yitin l'chachein. He should give you favor. So the way we would say it is God should smile upon you, and he should make it that people look upon you in general in a favorable way. Let's see the Sforno on that. Sforno on Pasuk Chaf Hey. Yo'er. Yigala einecha ba'or panav. Let God reveal things to your eyes by the light of his face. As imagine a person rummaging around in a dark room and they're trying to find something. It's very difficult. And then someone else comes and has a remarkably bright lamp. And then all of a sudden there's all these treasures in the room that you didn't know they were even there. So God should bring his light upon you. Lahabit niflaos mitoraso umimasav, to see wondrous things from God's Torah and God's world. That God should bless us, that we should have insight and perspective into Torah and the world. So the first bracha was that God should give us what we need to function and to function successfully. But now you've got some time, you've got some energy. So then God should shine his countenance upon you, that we get all this kind of clarity in all these different ways. Okay, fine. Now let's go on to Chavav. Yisah Hashem panav elecha. May God, literally translated, lift his face towards you, which is really difficult to understand what that means. V'yasem lecha shalom, and he will place for you peace. See Rashi and Chavav. Yisah Hashem panav elecha yichbosh kaso. You know what it means that he should lift his face? There are all kinds of things that God would have a right to get angry at us about, because we come up very short. So the bracha is that God should look upon us and not look at us with anger, but only look at us, like we said in the previous verse, according to Rashi, only look at us with his shining countenance. That's Rashi on the Psukim. Let's go over to the Sforno. Chafav Yisah Hashem panav elecha l'chaye olam. So the Sforno says what it means, that God should raise his face towards you, means you should be blessed with eternal life, meaning the world to come. He quotes various proofs to his point. We'll leave those to the side. You can look at it for yourselves. V'yasem l'cha shalom, and he should place for you peace. Now, presumably the straightforward meaning he should place for you peace is you shouldn't have strife in this world. And that sounds like a pretty good blessing. But the Sforno has another pshat here. V'yasem l'cha shalom, menuchas shalom, shehu hanitzchius. God should give us a rest of peace, which is eternity, Li taroves onesh, without any punishment mixed in. Haroi l'chol shalem l'chaye olam. When a person goes on to the next world, the bracha is that God should bless them with life in the next world. And when they're in the next world, there should be no punishment mixed in. It should just be only positive things. So it's a very different pshat than, it seems to be a very different pshat than Rashi is saying. Just want to mention, we regularly say to people, when they pass away, like at funerals and the like, lech b'shalom, go in peace. If you think about this sforno, it's such a meaningful thing. Whereas what we're really blessing them is their existence in the next world should be one only of positive things. So I just thought that was worthwhile to take a look at. And now it's late, but let's at least get started. If we go to chapter 7, verse 13. At the dedication of the Mishkan, each of the heads of tribe was given an opportunity to bring a special offering. And I'll tell you something. This next aliyah or two is a bar mitzvah boy's dream. A kid who has Naso, it's amazing because it's basically the same thing again and again and again and again. You just need to know the names. And so the question is very obvious. They all brought the same offerings. So why does the Torah have to say they each brought the same offerings? Why doesn't the Torah just say they each brought this offering and each one of them brought it on a different day? You don't have to relate the actual offering. Tell it to us once and then say, so too everyone else brought. So there's Ramban over here. If I remember correctly, the Ramban says 2 answers. Well, there's 2 answers given classically among the Rishonim. One answer is it shows how precious each and every offering was in the eyes of God. In other words, in the eyes of God, whatever the person brought on the first day, that was very special. And then whatever someone brought on the second day, it wasn't in God's eyes, oh, this is the same thing they gave me yesterday. It was a uniquely special thing in God's eyes the next day. Then the Ramban says another pshat that I think is always so interesting to think about. He says, each head of tribe thought long and hard about what was appropriate based on the unique skill set to the people of his tribe. What would be an appropriate way to relate to God? And it was based on gematrias and representations and this and that. And each of them independently came up with the exact same answer for totally different reasons. And that is, it's a beautiful image to think about how we need to embrace that we're all different people, we all have different strengths, and we all have different experiences, but we can all connect meaningfully with God. So that's the other answer the Ramban says over here. So just to sum up, we discussed the famous question of why the Nazir is involved with the sin offering. We went through Rashi and the Sforno, their different pshatim on the words of Birchas Kohanim, and we discussed this question of why the Torah has to repeat the offering that was brought every single day of the heads of tribe, even though they all brought the same offering. But before we take comments, I just want to let you know we're not going to meet Monday morning. I just have an appointment that I needed to be able to make, so it conflicts. I apologize. So the next time the morning group will meet will be Tuesday morning, God willing. The next time the evening group will meet will be Sunday evening, God willing. Thank you very much.